Welcome to Conspiracy Q. You know, that top secret investigation into history's most unbelievable truths. Well, today we're diving deep into a revelation that could rewrite human history. That's right, the Atlantis cover-up. Forget what you think you know.
Oh, we've got some really, truly explosive stuff for you today. We've got excerpts from what appears to be a top-secret file. It's called the Project Atlantis Revelation File. And let me tell you, this document, it lays out a very compelling argument for something incredible, really. We're talking about a highly advanced global civilization.
Yeah.
One that predates recorded history as we know it,
Yeah.
Atlantis.
So, our mission today, guided by these recently uncovered sources, well, it's to explore this idea, this evidence suggesting that this truth, this incredible truth about Atlantis, has been deliberately suppressed, right, by powerful entities. We're going to unpack all the key arguments, right, and evaluate this evidence trail presented in these sources. Get ready, folks, because you're about to question everything you thought was fact. We're starting right now with the very idea that Plato's writings about Atlantis, the ones you might have thought were just myths, they might actually be based on real historical accounts passed down through generations.
Yeah. What's fascinating here is how this Project Atlantis Revelation file really challenges that standard academic view, the one that says that Plato's Timaeus and Critias are just allegorical. These recently uncovered sources, they suggest that Plato wasn't making things up, not at all. He was meticulously recording real Egyptian accounts, stuff that Solon himself, the Athenian statesman, learned during his travels to Egypt.
Okay, so this file, it focuses on how specific Plato is in his stories, right? He talks about the geography, like this huge island beyond the Pillars of Hercules, right? Then there's the complex social structure he describes, and then there's the seemingly advanced technology like the Atlanteans are supposed to have, and of course, crucially, the super specific time frame. 9,000 years before Solon. That's way, way back. It's thousands of years before recorded Egyptian civilization. So you have to wonder, could all that detail really just come from someone's imagination?
It's a great question, and it really makes you think, right? The Project Atlantis Revelation file makes this point about Plato's descriptions of Carthage. Remember that. A powerful city that was rediscovered later. We accept all those descriptions as historical fact, so why do we dismiss his equally detailed account of Atlantis as just fiction? Could it be bias? Are we reluctant to change our view of history? Just food for thought, folks.
Now, this is where it gets super interesting. The file moves on to some tangible evidence, underwater anomalies. Specifically, the Bimini Road, that submerged formation of blocks off the Bahamas. The official explanation, of course, says it's just natural beach rock, right?
But the Project Atlantis Revelation file, it offers a different perspective. It points out the regularity of those blocks, the limestone blocks, how they're arranged at right angles, and the sheer scale of it, the way it stretches out in a line. It makes you wonder if natural processes could really create something that precise. And there's more. Divers have reported seeing other structures near the Bimini Road for years, what look like tiers and columns, clearly shaped stones, Definitely sounds like artificial construction.
And Bimini isn't the only case, right? The file lists a bunch of similar underwater discoveries, things that are controversial, of course. There's that supposed mega site near Cuba, the Yonaguni Monument off Japan. That one has those sharp edges and terrace formations. Then there's the megalithic stuff found off Spain. And even those ancient city ruins in the Gulf of Combat in India. Some think those are thousands of years old.
That's right. And this Project Atlantis Revelation file really emphasizes a pattern here, a pattern that fuels all the conspiracies, It describes this cycle, this repeating cycle. Some weird underwater structure is found, right? Everyone's interested, scientists, the public. But then, boom, the official explanation comes out, natural causes. And what happens? Funding for research dries up, access gets restricted, and it's all brushed under the rug. Are these just random coincidences, or are they hiding something from us? Think about it.
Makes you think, for sure. Then the file goes into this idea of impossible knowledge from the past, like artifacts and maps that show a level of, scientific understanding that shouldn't have existed back then. The Piri Reis map from 1513 is the big one here. This map supposedly shows Antarctica, in super detail, maybe even without its ice cap. And that's a wild claim.
It is. Most historians say the accuracy of the Piri Reis map comes from older maps, fragments, and the surveying techniques of the time. Some even say that the details of Antarctica are just coincidences. But the Project Atlantis Revelation file, it goes for a different explanation. It says the map could have come from much, much older maps, maybe even from Atlantis, a civilization with amazing seafaring skills and, map making. How else, the file asks, could a map from the 1500s show Antarctica without ice? That's a good question.
Then there's that crazy Antikythera mechanism, that ancient Greek calculator thing they pulled from a shipwreck. The gears, the way it predicted the stars, it's beyond anything we think they could have done back then.
Most archaeologists credit the ancient Greeks, right? They say they're just like super geniuses way ahead of their time. The Antikythera mechanism shows that. But the Project Atlantis revelation file offers a different theory. What if this device, this crazy device, is a leftover, a relic from a much more advanced civilization, like Atlantis, Their knowledge was lost, maybe after a disaster or something, but this one piece survived.
And how can we ignore places like Pumapunku in Bolivia?
Hmm.
Huge, massive stone blocks, some of them weighing tons. And they're cut with such precision, like lasers, perfectly interlocked. It's super hard to imagine how they did that with just like primitive tools.
Yeah. The standard explanation is that they were just like incredibly patient and skilled, right? They had some clever techniques and it took them forever to build these things. But the Project Atlantis revelation file argues that the precision at Pumapunku, the way those massive stones fit together, is just too good. It makes you think maybe they had better tools, maybe even something passed down from Atlantis. Who knows?
Okay, so we've got these potential remnants, right? And these pieces of knowledge that just don't fit with what we think we know. And then the file takes us to huge geological events, like the Younger Dryas period. That was about 11,600 years ago, right? Crazy climate shifts, mass extinctions, megafauna dying out. A rough time.
Definitely a wild time. And this Project Atlantis revelation file, it makes a direct link between this period and the end of Atlantis. Plato said Atlantis went down about 9,000 years before him, right? Well, guess what? That lines up almost perfectly with the Younger Dryas event. The file says that this wasn't just some random climate change. It was a cataclysm, maybe caused by comet impacts, something big enough to wipe out a whole advanced civilization. And we know the climate changed rapidly back then. We see it in the ice, in the sediment layers. So there's some evidence for a major global event, for sure.
And the file connects this to the flood myths, those great flood stories. They're everywhere in tons of different cultures. What if those aren't just random tales? What if they're memories of a real flood, a global disaster passed down through the generations?
That's what this Project Atlantis revelation file is saying. It's suggesting that these flood stories from all these different parts of the world, they could be memories, maybe distorted, of a real event, a massive sea level rise, environmental chaos, all connected to the end of the Younger Dryas, and maybe the sinking of Atlantis. There's even evidence of a genetic bottleneck around that time, a sharp drop in the human population, like only a small group survived.
This is starting to sound like a pretty intense story, right? And to make it even more interesting, the file brings in Edgar Cayce, the psychic guy, the one who did all those readings about Atlantis.
Oh yeah, he's a controversial figure for sure. But the Project Atlantis revelation file, it picks out some interesting parts of his readings about Atlantis. It focuses on the consistent details he gave over years and years. He talked about where Atlantis was, near the Bahamas, close to Bimini. He described their technology, those energy crystals, the Twice Stone, and he even talked about the problems they had, the social and ethical issues that he claimed led to their downfall.
Right, and the file points out this one prediction Cayce made. He said land would rise near Bimini in the late 1960s. And guess what? The Bimini Road was discovered in 1968. Even if you're skeptical about Cayce, the timing is hard to ignore.
It is. And the file also points out that Cayce was talking about energy crystals and how to use them way before we had laser technology.
Yeah.
Decades before. That seems pretty advanced, wouldn't you say? It's stuff like this that makes the whole Atlantis thing so compelling, so believable.
So we've got all this potential evidence, right? The old writings, the underwater structures, the impossible knowledge, the cataclysmic events, even psychic predictions. But the main point of this Project Atlantis revelation file is about a cover-up. It says this whole thing is being deliberately hidden from us.
Absolutely. And this is where it gets, kind of spooky, right? The file talks about these accidental discoveries. Deep sea exploration companies, they find something weird on the seabed, or maybe the military picks up something strange with sonar. Huge structures, geometric shapes, things that don't belong. And what happens? It's classified. Top secret. National security. Or they say it's just a natural formation, a glitch in the equipment. Sounds like a conspiracy movie, right?
Totally. And then there are these stories, harder to prove, of course. People who get in trouble for taking Atlantis seriously. Researchers, academics, they lose their jobs, their funding, their reputations. The file even mentions archaeologists whose discoveries get confiscated, like they disappear.
Yeah. The Project Atlantis revelation file admits that it's hard to prove those stories without solid evidence. but it says they're all part of a bigger picture. They're trying to scare people away from investigating Atlantis, make them afraid to even ask questions. They mentioned Dr. Ray Brown as an example. Remember him? He found a crystal sphere in a submerged pyramid near the Bahamas, a major discovery that was supposedly covered up. They were scared of what would happen, the ridicule, the government interference.
It's like trying to control what we think,
Yeah.
right? And the file says they use ridicule as a weapon, too. They call Atlantis pseudoscience, something for crazy people. That way, no serious scientist will touch it.
Exactly. By making fun of it, by pushing it to the fringes, the Project Atlantis Revelation file says they can control the narrative, the story of history. They can stop people from looking into the evidence, even if it's compelling.
Okay, but why? Why would they go to all this trouble to hide Atlantis? The Project Atlantis Revelation file has some pretty wild ideas about their motives.
Well, first, there's the energy angle. Think about it. If Atlantis had clean, free energy, those crystals Casey's talked about, or maybe something even more advanced, that would turn the world upside down. It would threaten the oil companies, the nuclear industry, everyone who makes money off energy.
Right, so powerful forces would want to keep things the way they are. And the file also talks about how Atlantis would change our whole understanding of history, religion, everything.
If we found out that a super advanced civilization existed thousands of years ago, it would challenge everything we know about ourselves, where we came from, even our religions. That could cause a lot of chaos, a lot of unrest.
This Project Atlantis Revelation file also brings up the idea of fear. What if the Atlantean technology was dangerous? What if they destroyed themselves with it? Maybe some people know about it and they're scared of what would happen if we got our hands on it.
Yeah, it's like that old saying, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Maybe Atlantis is a warning sign, a lesson we need to learn from.
And lastly, the file suggests that maybe, just maybe, they're hiding Atlantis to control us. By making us believe in a certain version of history, they can keep us in line, make us think this is as good as it gets.
It's a pretty cynical view, but it makes you think. If we knew about a golden age in the past, a time of incredible advancement, wouldn't we want that again? Wouldn't we demand more from our leaders?
So what do you think about all this Project Atlantis Revelation file? Paints a pretty wild picture, right? It says that there's a huge conspiracy to hide the truth about Atlantis, a conspiracy that's been going on for centuries. It connects Plato, underwater structures, impossible technology, global disasters, even psychic predictions. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about the past.
It definitely makes you think, doesn't it? It challenges us to be open-minded, to look at the evidence even if it seems strange or unbelievable, to question the official explanations, and to consider the possibility that something amazing might be hidden from us.
This file is saying that the very idea of Atlantis, of a civilization more advanced than ours, is a threat to the people in power. It makes you wonder, if even a small part of this is true, what does it mean for us, for humanity?
It means that we might be capable of so much more than we realize, that our potential is limitless. But it also means that we have to be careful to learn from the mistakes of the past.
Well, folks, this top secret investigation into the Atlantis cover-up is just getting started. We want you to keep digging. Look into the Bimini Road, the Yonaguni Monument, the Puri Race Map. Read about the Younger Dryas impact theory. See what Edgar Cayce had to say. Don't just accept the official stories. What other secrets are out there waiting to be uncovered?
Keep asking questions, folks. Keep an open mind. And remember, the truth might be much stranger and much more important than we ever imagined.
Rate and follow Conspiracy Q for more shocking unveilings of history's hidden secrets.